Attention app and game developers, are you ready to unlock the secrets behind the world's top performing apps and games? With Sensor Tower, you get the ultimate competitive edge, whether it's breaking into new markets, fine-tuning your UA strategies, or boosting monetization. Dive into data like never before, track global trends across app stores, analyze market-leading in-app purchase and in-app ad strategies, and benchmark your performance with real-time insight. The best part, Sensor Tower doesn't just deliver data, it helps you turn it into action. With intuitive tools and expert analysis, it's everything you need to make smarter, faster decisions. Thousands of app and game studios, from indie creators to global giants, trust Sensor Tower to help them win. So why not you? Start your free trial today at sensortower.com. That is sensortower.com.
Game devs. Here at Heroic Labs, we know that great gameplay is what players love, but integrating metagame features like challenges, progression, and rewards is crucial for retention and monetization. But coding them is a tedious and time-consuming process. That's why top studios have turned to Hero from Heroic Labs. Hero provides a complete suite of battle-tested metagame features that are quick to implement, letting you spend more time on the core gameplay experience. Ready to ship fully featured, engaging games? Check out Hero today at heroiclabs.com.
Hey everyone, and welcome to This Week in Games 321. We're going to give you our game industry insider takes on the top game news this week. A lot going on. I'm Jen Donahoe. I fill the marketing and publishing role on this lovely podcast. Today we have
Phil Black, monetization czar. Let's cook.
Eric Kress, ranter in chief. I'm going to pull it back a little bit this time because I think last time was a little bit overkill.
a little heavy. And welcome back. We haven't had Laura in the house in a while, so
surprise appearance, Laura Taranto. Just hanging out, doing some product, doing hopefully some puzzle.
Awesome. All right, so here's what we have for you today. Steam is cooking. I'm channeling Phil. We all guessed wrong on AppLovin's game division sale. Supercell changes in London. They change on Squad Busters. And apparently there are boats now. Monster Hunter slays with 8 million units, and they're on track to almost double that. And then Guitar Hero makes a controversial comeback 10 years later, and on mobile, and with AI art, leaving us to ponder their fall from grace and the state of music games. So can I just tell a very quick story? So in my Yoda tour, hopefully I'm done, I did UCLA, the UCLA Games Group. And in my presentation, I tell the story about Littlest Pet Shop, which is a brand for 8-year-old little girls. We sold like 15 million units of this at EA on the DS back in the day. So I'm telling this story and I'm like, does anyone like play this game? And this woman in the back, her name's Lillian, she raises her hand and she's like, this was my favorite game. I played all of them. And I just about like teared up. And, you know, it was that moment where you talk to somebody who loved the thing that you did. And I think we just need to take a moment to realize that's why we all do this, unless you're Cress and you just want to yell at people and make money. So
make money and be funny. That's it.
So it was really touching. Thanks to the UCLA crew for having me. Okay, very quick shill. 2 more weeks of this, guys. I promise we're almost done. So here's all the GDC stuff. Check the newsletter, check Slack and our events channel for all of the links. Apply to join. I'm really sorry we can't get everybody in. We'll try to do as much as we can, but we want to make sure you have the opportunity to get in. Sunday, the beta hat pregame is at, does anyone want to guess what our RSVP number is now at?
Last year was like 200, so maybe like 250.
Good guess. That might be the amount of people the restaurant can actually hold. I think it can hold 300. We're at 700. Thank you, everybody, for wanting to show up and come hang out with us.
Well, once I gave it the endorsement that it was the best event at GDC and I was looking forward to it, I mean, all bets were off.
Well, I mean,
know.
Phil, if you saw the curve, I mean, it for sure, we can attribute you to that in the DOF MMP.
We're going to have a special line to talk to Cress. There's going to be like a queue.
I know. I can't wait to just stand, 10 feet away from Cress and watch all of the people. I think I might have to get you security.
Oh, stop.
All right. Monday is Sensor Tower. Tuesday is Heroic Labs and Convoy. Back on the list, Exola Game Night. They confirmed they're doing it yet again. I think this is the third or fourth year we've been partnering with them. That's Tuesday, March 18th, 6 p.m. at GDC. Wednesday is the dinner with the most amount of sponsors, us, Newzoo, TikTok, AppsFlyer, and Griffin. Thursday, so this is the one, let me just make this plea. Hang in there to the end. Come join us for a live recording of TWIG, 7 p.m. at GDC Nights at the Moscone Center. We'd love to have you just be a part of this. So come for that. Okay, it's not really a correction, but it's an update. Chris, you probably chime in on this if I get anything wrong here. So the news broke when we were recording the podcast about AppLovin and the short seller story with the fuzzy panda bear, whatever group. So it turns out there was another short seller that jumped into the mix called Culper Research. They also made a bunch of allegations, the systematic exploitation of app permissions that enables advertisers themselves to force feed silent backdoor app installations directly on their user's phone. I mean, that sounds pretty harsh. AppLovin, Adam actually came out and did a blog post, and they denied everything. They're like, this is an over-exaggeration. So just to let you know, AppLovin was like, nope. Investors are now pulling a Sherlock Holmes and looking into the accusations. I read that I think yesterday. So the 12% stock decline looks to be around holding. Chris, any updates from you on this?
I wish I'd looked into this a little bit more, read through the report closer. I would say, as I said last week, I think this business is just a dirty business, generally speaking. And so some of these things may be true, but they're a little bit more exaggerated. And the stock move has been reasonably dramatic, but the reality of it is the overall market's kind of choppy as it is. And again, these are hedge fund hotels, so people are trading in and out of this and making money on the long short side, because that's what you do with stocks like these. It'll be a volatile stock. It's not for the novice to be investing in these stocks, I would just say, generally speaking, at your peril.
High risk.
Yes.
High risk. That's what Robinhood tells me. All right, let's get into it. So, Phil, you're going to love this. Steam has now reached 40 million concurrently online users for the first time. 12.6 million users are currently in game. I think I pulled this yesterday. 132 million MAU.
Looks great. I mean, this has been the story for the last couple months, or even last couple of years, right? As they keep breaking their own records. The only sobering moment is when you look at the number of users who are in game and online rather than just the number of users who are online. The growth rate is not as extravagant for that, which suggests to me that you're getting a lot of the users that are coming in. They might be coming in for one or two titles, but they're not repurchasing or engaging in live services, which is a little bit deflating. Don't get me wrong. It's still growing. It's still up. But I would love to see those things be more tightly correlated. And in fact, they're actually becoming more and more discorrelated. The correlation is becoming weaker, which is a little concerning. But still, it's still explosive growth, just to be clear.
Right. And it's being driven by big games like
Yeah.
Wukong, and now Monster Hunter is doing really well in Asia.
Yeah, we'll hit that later. Cool. All right. So let's go to the next couple of charts here. According to Business Insider, the actual purchaser of AppLovin's game division is Triple Dot. I would have never in a million years picked them. So I think Neil from mobilegamer.biz picked this up. They are selling them for 900 million, but it is the deal is for 500 million in cash and the remaining 400 million in equity. So there you go. The buyer could also borrow 250 million to fund the deal.
The big question I had when this news broke is, where is the money coming from? So, I mean, Triple Dot has been growing, but it's mostly an ad-based platform. So, looking at IP isn't going to tell you anything. So right now we're looking at downloads on the screen and, they're fine. They might be doing 100, 150 million downloads per year. But to spend $1 billion, it doesn't add up to me. And I don't understand where this comes from. And I guess, Eric, what is the ratio of income to debt that firms are comfortable taking on? This feels like it'd be a highly leveraged acquisition. I'm confused. 600 million for the portfolio they do per year. So you're going to acquire this for 2x what these games make per year? Confused, right?
Yeah, I'm at a loss here. Triple Dot's really not that big at all. These numbers that we're looking here are for AppLovin's business, not Triple Dot's. Triple Dot's much smaller.
I pulled up these charts and I was like, those games are not Triple Dot. So these are Triple Dot's download games, just for downloads.
Yeah, these are downloads. The revenue is mice nuts. Like it's really, really small.
Because they're ad driven, right?
Yeah, but who gives a fuck about that ad-driven garbage? Fucking trash. Come on.
Okay, that's
Oh,
definitely
Chris.
wrong, but okay. I would say on the other side, though, the portfolio of AppLovin is much stronger. I mean, it's doing 50 million a month. You know, that's a 600 million a year business.
No,
And
I
I-
know.
Awesome.
This is the point. There's a huge difference between $50 million a month versus what Triple Dot's doing. So it's like Triple Dot's doing like a few million, right? According to Sensor Tower.
In IAP, yeah.
It could generate more revenue, but not significantly more. Certainly not more than 50 million, right? So in essence, they're buying a bigger business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would assume very profitable business because the only way you can get debt on anything is if you have like solid cash flows. So they must have some outside money that's getting involved in this. But it seems a little bit risky because I don't know how stable this business will be or even if they have the personnel to run it, right? So ironically, I just spoke to their ex-corp dev guy, Alex Verbitsky, who went off to be a partner at Rain Group in August of 2024. Certainly some kind of quinky-dink right there. So I don't know. I don't know what the plan is here of attack. Again, it has not been officially announced. This is, again, another rumor, but seems legit at this stage. And I had heard the same rumor a few days ago before this broke. So anyway, we'll see what this is all about. It'll be interesting to see how they structure it.
What makes me surprised is like they released Modern Community, and I thought that game actually had a super solid switcher, great core engine. It was definitely leaps and bounds above Project Makeover. And unfortunately, it's all kind of grouped into this other. So I don't think they saw the success they had hoped for something that was relatively a large game. That surprised me when I had a look at this chart. I thought that would have had more effect on their portfolio overall, which is unfortunate, but is what it is.
Okay. Yeah, something to keep an eye on. It looks like, I mean, at least if you're have an ad specialty side to your business, you're going to buy a group of games that leverage ads. At least strategically, that makes sense. But I'd read somewhere too that they had only like $120 million to spend on M&A.
But in-app purchases was 130,000. Sorry, it's not even millions.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, right?
I mean, like this is a very small business, right? And even if they have like a gajillion dollars of ad stuff, it's not going to be even close to 50 million. So I don't know.
Yeah. All right, Chris, do you want to do the next story about PlayStation
Yeah, this
VR?
is a really quick one. You know, Sony's dropping its PlayStation VR 2 price to $399. I think that's like $150 discount or something. No one gives a fucking shit, right? Because they basically put this thing out to die. This is a liquidation. This is not an attempt to revitalize the market. You know, RIP, PSVR 2, Sony did you dirty. You know, amazing hardware, no software, no support whatsoever. VR is dead yet again. I think this is like the third or fourth death of VR. So
Is this literally what it looks like?
yeah, it's actually a really good piece of kit. I've said this a million times. Like the quality is really, really good. They did an exceptional job on the building this thing, but no one gives a shit. You know, VR is kind of done.
Yeah.
You know,
Nobody wants to put a big ski goggle thing on
I just-
their face.
It does not look like a VR kit. I feel like, yeah, they're either going snowboarding or they're going like scuba diving. There's something else going on.
Yeah.
yet Apple spends billions building their bullshit, right? That's
Well, that's
now
a fail.
canceled.
That's a silent fail too. Okay. So let's go on to Supercell. Again, another kudos to Neil Long from mobilegamer.biz. So here's a little bit more on what's going on with Supercell and SpaceApe. And some of this we've talked about before. First, SpaceApe update. They had 30 staff that were laid off or did not accept new roles. 70 staff have been offered new roles at Supercell London, is what they're calling it. A dozen or so are moving to a new startup called Off-Road Games. This is where Chrome Valley Customs and Fastlane will live. Then the Finns have taken over London, right? Like, so Supercell London's new GM is the former Everdale, Heyday, and Boom Beach game lead. The news follows on from former SpaceApe lead Jonathan Rowland's appointment as Squadbusters GM, suggesting Supercell London will play a big role in that game's future. So, I think we thought about, that London's going to basically be the place where a lot of the people who don't like the harsh Finnish winter want to live. For me, I was like, what happened to BeatStar? This matters a little bit to our discussion later on music games and the Country Star game. Okay, so I didn't realize that they were already spun out, but we'll hit a little bit on music games later on that don't know. It's not quite like we can see why we spun them out to make sense. So
I have so many comments, but nothing really positive. I mean,
shocking.
Yeah, shocking. I think at the end of the day, like, I think they built the wrong products. I love those guys, but like those products are just not big enough to make a
SpaceApe
difference.
or Supercell?
SpaceApe.
SpaceApe. Okay.
They don't make a big enough difference to their business. I think they just went after the wrong things. I mean, I think the game was great, but it just wasn't going to be big enough to matter to Supercell. And I don't think Supercell did a particularly good job of managing studios. So,
and it's just as an acqui-hire, right? This looks about as much an acqui-hire as you can possibly imagine, right? Offload all the assets, and none of them are sticking around. It's literally just for the 70 headcount.
70.
If you notice, they spun out all the puzzle. I mean, it even said that they are not, Supercell's not interested in any of the puzzle games that they had.
Yeah.
Like puzzle music, anything that's not part of either their current portfolio of games, Supercell's current portfolio, or anything that's going to be aligned to what they want to build. Like,
it feels like a cheaper way just to set up a London office, right? Like, oh, somebody's already there.
Pretty much.
So,
yep.
It feels like a real estate buy.
No. Hold on. They own SpaceApe. They already acquired SpaceApe. Now they're shutting it down and moving everyone to the London office. This is a big, like, bye-bye SpaceApe, and the founders are gone. That's what happened, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, when they bought them a while ago, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and they built a couple games, which didn't do well. As much as people love BeatStar, it's not like lighting the world on fire.
I'll
and
show
they
you
shut
numbers.
it down.
Yeah, later. I
It's
think
sad to
it's
see
T1.
Chrome Valley Customs be on the downhill slide too.
Yeah,
That has not
exactly.
been doing well. That was supposed to be a really exciting and explosive thesis. It has not maintained run rate. I think last time I looked, it was sub 30 million run rate.
that looks like they stopped investment and like stopped UA though. I mean, that decline was strong. And if I remember correctly, the initial acquisition was what, 60 or 7 up to like 70% of Supercell owning SpaceApe. So I think this last bit was taking over the last 25 whatever percent they had remaining.
Got it. Okay. Who wants to do Forte?
Just put this in the troll, Eric. Forte, one of our closest, podcast listeners, it's firm, a US-based Web3 tech company has acquired Sealants, a US-based Web3 compliance tech company, for an undisclosed sum. And if you remember, Forte raised $725 million in a Series B in November 21. We've heard nothing since, I think, November 21 about this company. They're alive. This is a heartbeat. I don't know what it means. It's good to see that 725 million is getting put to good use.
They can run this company on the fucking 10-year treasury interest on that money, dude. So, they got time.
They just put it in the bank. That's their play.
No comment.
All right. Okay.
So Miniclip has acquired the German hybrid casual studio Lessmore, the maker of Eat Venture and We Are Warriors, for an undisclosed sum. The deal was quietly done at the end of 2024. I love these guys. I've been trying to write a check for them forever. I think they're awesome. What they did with Eat Venture and We Are Warriors was a ton of design innovation. Wishing them the best and hope they continue to grow. And hopefully they're at least rich now. That would be my hope for them.
Cool. Yeah.
Company to keep track of too. I'm excited for what they'll come out with next.
All right.
Before we were talking about Neil Long's article, because he kind of went deep into what was happening at Supercell, where everyone was going from SpaceApe. And all of a sudden this thing pops up and they were like, Supercell is teasing a new title called Boat Game. It must be a working title. And I was like, what on earth is this? I only could find a trailer. It's super secretive, small alpha testing, but tried to get some information. It was described as an innovative player experience with strategic naval battles, exploration, and multiplayer elements. And some of the feature sets are character customization, loadouts, skill trees, sailing mechanics, island exploration, and multiplayer on-foot third-person shooting elements. That's as much as I got. The trailer was super vague. It did not give me any idea of the proper gameplay, but maybe I was looking at the long trail. I don't know. Phil, what did you see about it?
I've actually played it.
How did you play it? Are you you're in the VIP
In
group?
the alpha?
I got into the alpha. The key is not to use your Deconstructor of Fun email.
Yeah, that's how I'm in the alpha for Project Rise.
Well, listeners actually don't know right now, but Mishka's off-screen yelling Battle Bay repeatedly. If you remember
Yes.
Rovio's ill-fated project, This one, I think, is different than Battle Bay for a number of reasons. It actually takes a lot from Moko, which is the RPG that they've been testing for a while. And if you actually remember a while back, Ilka in one of his letters talked about the need for Supercell to get games into the hands of players faster, even when they're a little bit rougher. Paul Graham, of course, is famous for saying, if you're not embarrassed to ship, you ship too late. And I think they've really taken that advice to heart. And this is a much earlier game than I think we've seen a lot of Supercell games. It definitely is, again, taking a lot of those Moko assets. Maybe the Supercell engine's flexing a little bit. They have a Path of Exile style skill tree with a bunch of different nodes, which is pretty interesting. You're able to add gear to your boat and upgrade it. You're able to add gear to your character and upgrade it. The loop is kind of interesting. What ends up happening is you spawn into a social hub. You boat into these different shards or these worlds. It's almost like a servered instance. You explore the shard. You will find missions and you'll try to complete those missions while you're in the shard. When you complete a mission, you'll get a chest. You take the chest back to your boat and then you go back to the main social hub and you'll open the chest with a locksmith and you'll get some rewards. Very MMO-ish. It's probably one of the more ambitious titles I've seen from Supercell. I think, again, the engine's really flexing here. They've really been fascinated with more sync PvP on-screen virtual analog sticks in their last releases. Squad Busters, Brawl Stars, Flood Rush to some degree. And they keep moving in this direction, which I find interesting. They've kind of backed away from kind of the more tactical, Clash Mini, Everdale, to more real-time action, which I found pretty interesting.
This is like a PC game. This is like a Guild Wars game. It's really bizarre.
It looks like it.
Yeah, it doesn't even seem to belong on mobile.
If you had told me this was Supercell, I wouldn't have guessed, to be honest.
I think what they're seeing, especially with Brawl Stars, because the Brawl Stars audience is so young, that the first device that I think a lot of younger people have is their mobile device, right?
Yes.
This is where they're doing their gaming at home, right? It's not just on the go. I'm gaming at home and I'm having longer sessions. And so I think you're seeing more traditional experiences come into play. I mean, Roblox is the greatest example of this. Right. And so this to me is them gearing around that generation. Is like, for mobile is going to be your first device. You're going to have more intensive, real time, cohesive experiences that you don't need to have 3 minutes. It's not about filling the gaps anymore in your life. I think that was the original free to play thesis, right? Is that I'm on the elevator, I'm playing Candy Crush, I'm on the train, I'm playing Merge Mansion, whatever it may be. It's filling the dead space in your life. And I think this is much different. This is a much different approach.
I don't know if this text is your name. It says, Bodie McBokeface's speedier cousin. It was born to be fast. It'll do anything its cousin can do, but faster.
Yeah, the IP is kind of fun. It's a little wacky.
It's
I think the IP is going to go over. I think the IP was pretty last minute, but it's kind of funny.
I mean, that's very on brand for them. The playful, funny, quirky style, very cartoony.
It's not set in the Clash universe. That's the other thing I'd point out. It's good to see them expand
different
outside
characters,
of that.
right?
Correct.
I'm going to just say this. I don't know why I sit here and try not to bag on Supercell, but this game just is a complete mismatch of markets, right? So multiplayer MMO style games where you're leveling up characters is not the right match for the Western markets. Like that does well in Japan, Korea. That doesn't do well here. This is like just
Roblox seems to do pretty well.
Not on.
This is not Roblox.
This has a similar UX.
You're causing the problem by suggesting that Roblox is similar to this. It's not, right? Roblox is a completely different experience for a different audience.
Correct. The similarity is that about 80% of Roblox's audience is on mobile. That's where the similarities end, in my opinion, here.
I'm only referring to the UX of Roblox, where you're using 3D worlds and 3D space to move between different locations rather than menu-based interaction. It's the only analogy I'm making to Roblox, nothing else.
No, that's not the analogy I would make.
It's going to have some challenges getting any type of scale here, particularly monetization-wise. Well, interesting to see what their monetization strategy is going to be. If it's just like cosmetic bullshit, like it's over.
No, there's real power score here. Like the whole game is based around power score. The whole game is geared around it. This is an RPG. This is obvious.
RPGs aren't they like super challenged right now?
Yeah, just look at MMOs. Forget RPGs. Collection-based like Upgrade Evo games are all do extremely well, but every other RPG, like the MMO style RPGs, are a disaster. Like anybody could look at comps and see that this game is not well suited for the current market. You have to believe like some like real leap of faith that tastes are going to change in this Western market, which tastes haven't changed for the last like 10 years. It's really Quite bizarre.
Well, let's keep going.
Yeah, I thought, it's early right now. We'll have more data next week, but the split fiction reviews are coming in and they are coming in hot. And if you're not familiar with this game, this is the new title from Hazelight, which has done a lot of co-op games and almost exclusively co-op games. If you remember, It Takes Two was their last title. And Joseph Ferris,
That was a great game.
Yeah, it was an absolutely great game. Unravel, also a great game. They just have made banger after banger. It's embarrassing how good they've been at this. Also, Swedish studio, naturally. And one of the things that was pretty interesting in one of the podcasts he revealed is that of the 23 million sales for It Takes Two, 50% of them originated in China, which I was pretty shocked to see. And so let's see if Split Fiction, when it's on PC, is able to garner a large Chinese share.
Fable delayed to 2026. Not a shocker. Not really quite sure if Microsoft can make games anymore, but we'll see if they ever get this thing out, right? And when I say Microsoft, I mean studios that they have not acquired. So anyway, yeah, we'll see. I'm kind of excited. Like Fable is an old school like RPG that they just have not been good at like executing against. But yeah, we'll see how they can pull it off.
If I remember, the trailer got really negative reviews. Maybe that plays into it. I don't remember exactly what it was. I think the look at some of the characters.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, Microsoft makes lots of mistakes. And one of their biggest mistakes is they don't really know how to manage studios, which is evident by what they did to Halo. The only studio that's actually done quite well is Forza, right? Which seems to execute pretty well, but
Not Bethesda?
Bethesda's an own studio that they're their own entity, right?
Okay.
I'm talking about their internal studios that they've acquired before Bethesda, basically. Pre-Bethesda, pre-Activision.
All right. Monster Hunter.
As a little background, I was actually explaining this to my son. Monster Hunter has always been a very, very niche franchise historically, right? Very Japanese, but the last game that they did, Monster Hunter
Wilds?
The last one that they did, not Wilds, the one before that.
World. World.
Yeah. Yeah. So that game like broke through every barrier because basically they created a much more approachable game for kind of the Western audiences, was kind of the generic thing, and more approachable combat and systems, etc. So that game just kind of broke through. This game is actually breaking through even further, it seems, because they're already kind of at this insane pace. The quality of the game is really high. The gameplay is far more approachable. And it actually kind of, the gameplay itself differs depending on what kind of weapons you're using. So anyway, it can feel evidently a lot like Elden Ring at times. So anyway, this game looks like it's crushing it. And then I looked at the data that Mr. Phillip provided. And what's really interesting is that China is a big part of this mix, which that also makes sense why it's blowing up the way it is. So not only are they kind of getting the big fans in the West, but they're also expanding beyond the Western audience and going into China, because China is representing 30%, almost 30% of the business.
So this is for Wilds. Yeah.
And remember, we're just looking at Steam, and this is from our partners at Video Game Insights.
That's true.
The share of China has actually decreased in Wilds from World from 38% to around 28%. The US mix is actually a lot stronger, which I think tracks with the narrative you were mentioning, Eric, is like, I think there's a Chinese story, which I think raises the absolute numbers based on Steam's growth that we're looking at here, but the relative mix has shifted actually more Western. Again, we don't have a time series here, so we don't know how this changes. Like this mix could change over time, but it just all looks good.
Yeah, no, it was an amazing success for Capcom and a great franchise. I mean, look, at the end of the day, this is like a battle of the big type thing where these huge franchises are coming out and selling beyond everyone's expectations. But the amount of money that was put into something like this is like 4 years, like $400-500 million, like minimum, slave labor and wherever else they're at, right? It's pretty crazy, like the type of games that are what's required for investment. These type of games, these are huge games, and it's kind of taking over the world right now. But this is kind of where we're at.
The power of IP, the power of franchise, the power of what players know, it's easier to get them and cheaper to get them to purchase the next in the series. With the market being the way it is, everyone's retreating to the known franchises. But
yeah, the last thing I want to say is like sometimes these games actually don't do as well. And I've talked about this on the podcast before, things like Division and Division 2, Star Wars and Star Wars 2, the action games, Destiny 2, right? They try these games, they don't like them. But if you actually improve upon the core gameplay and make it even more approachable and easier to get into and and do a great job of marketing the game and why it's different and how it appeals, then there are possibilities. Like it's seemingly like they're going to grow this franchise version after version. So
yeah. Before we finish, Monster Hunter didn't give the top line. 500 million gross revenue, 8 million units sold, likely 15 million units in 12 months, and a 90 Metacritic game. I thought that was good stats to kind of put in there.
Step into the future of game monetization with Xsolla, the premier partner for game developers seeking to expand their reach and revenue. Xsolla provides a robust suite of tools designed to enhance user acquisition, manage subscriptions, and streamline payment solutions worldwide. Unlock new markets and maximize profitability through their customized, secure payment architecture and dedicated support team. Xsolla, powering game developers to achieve global success.
This podcast is brought to you by AppsFlyer. In today's digital world, understanding your app's journey from discovery to download is more than just insightful, it's essential. Enter AppsFlyer, the leader in mobile attribution and marketing analytics that allows you to measure the full potential of your marketing efforts, making every ad dollar work smarter. With AppsFlyer, that's your new reality. Dive deep into data-driven insights that reveal exactly where your users come from and how they'll interact with your app. AppsFlyer, where your app's potential meets performance.
Disney Step is out in Japan, baby, and it is a location-based smart home game that lets players go around their real-life surroundings on a treasure hunt with familiar Disney characters. Obviously, it's free to play with IEP. You can customize your character, outfits, costumes from different Disney characters and movies. The game had 500,000 pre-registrations. Started to pull up the numbers for Japan location-based games, looking at two things. One was Pikmin Bloom, and the other was Monster Hunter Now. As we know, like Monster Hunter Now does pretty well. It's one of like the only successes that Niantic has had. Pikmin Bloom actually isn't awful. Pikmin has maintained a top 50 spot on the games chart, which I was pretty surprised by, while Monster Hunter Now's performance has been a lot more anemic. And when you look at the revenue side, of course, like Monster Hunter Now is crushing it. I wonder if Nintendo put any monetization restrictions, but they have all their traditional squad RPG mechanics. So I don't know, maybe there's a life for Disney Step. Maybe there's something that can happen here. Eric's very skeptical. Don't worry, I'm skeptical too. This is a fun idea. I don't know. Jen always talks about the idea that Disney IP appeals too young, so it looks like this one's DOA.
Every time we talk about this, Disney is one of the few IPs that can stretch to every consumer age bracket and demographic. Especially in Japan, Disney is revered by everybody. If there's any place this is going to work, it's going to be Japan. And that's basically it.
yeah, I mean, between all these games, Japan is like 65% of the revenue. So yeah, I would say that it's a uniquely Japanese thing. Maybe.
No, if I remember, when I looked at the games by country for their revenue, the last time I checked, full disclosure, it's been a little bit. The majority of these games, they're getting their revenue from Japan.
To be clear, Disney Step is not out anywhere but Japan yet. So I'm not.
Yes. I'm thinking like Pikmin Bloom. I don't know about Peridot. I haven't looked at that game in a while. But the Monster Hunter hunting,
new IP.
Whatever.
Like, I think it's difficult when you compare like Niantic's new IP versus Disney, which is just like, off the chain. But is there any news on the Scopely Niantic?
Yeah, we haven't heard anything. I mean, my headspace goes to these things take time, but also strategic leak. I don't know. Is there anything to that theory, Eric?
Oh, GDC, like a big announcement on GDC, like we're back.
I don't know. Anything could happen. Sometimes people like to leak information based on like the purchase price. You're trying to send a signal to other buyers. You're trying to rate. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can use PR, right, to get certain outcomes. Yeah. And I was just surprised this wasn't closed faster since the news broke, or hasn't been even now.
Oh, sorry. Actually, I do have an update. I actually looked into this a little bit. I think the general notion is that this is not a real financial buy. See now Scopely is going to hate me for this. There's no reason to buy this for $3.5 billion. Like, that's insanity, right? Given the revenue run rate and their features. So a few people that I've spoken to basically think that it's more of a vanity play, right? Like where they buy an IP like this and this gives them credibility, right? And this is a very, very like old school Middle East type thing. And I know people don't like that, but like when I was in Saudi, they built like a 60-story hotel in the middle of fucking desert, right? That was never ever going to be built. Like, it's like $600 million, some insane amount of money to build this thing. That's what this kind of feels like, where it's just more like, look, I have a huge Nintendo franchises and we own this thing. So the counter to this is a lot of people that are involved with this stuff that's going on with Savvy and the Saudis in general are really, really hardcore gamers and really into the weeds on this stuff, which I think is totally true. The thing is that, like, when you think about owning an asset like this, that's like the biggest feather in your cap, peacocking your ownership type thing. So I think there's some of that going on, to be honest. And if I were to guess, like, the financial people at Scopely were probably not all that interested in this thing, but like they get trumped by the money men, So that's kind of my guess, but I don't know shit. This is all pure speculation from people in the industry. And since we don't know fuck all because no one's announcing anything, then we are free to speculate.
Got it.
Jen, do you remember when the Saudi prince sent their executive assistant because they had a problem with WWE champions to the Scopely office in Los Angeles and demanded that the bug be fixed?
I do not. I was perhaps not the head of marketing on that game when that happened. I do know that we had whales in that region that we would monitor and take care of in a VIP fashion, but I don't remember that. I've heard other stories around just, League of Legends, and they play other, hardcore games. Mishka tells us a lot of those stories too, which, like, listen, I am happy to hear that the folks that want to invest in our industry believe in the products. I mean, that's a nice thing to hear. Yes. They're not just fair weather, like, I'm going to throw money into something I don't really care about and kind of drop out of. Like, they're gamers and they love these games and these products, and that's why they're doing a lot of investing.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Like, I'm getting constant calls these days about people looking for work, right? It's really kind of really sad, right? And I say the one thing that you can be sure about is that Scopely is going to be a great place to work for a long fucking time. Right? Because these guys are in it to win it, right? I might talk shit about why they do things that they're doing, but they're not going anywhere, right? And if I were anywhere in the industry, I would want to be at places like Scopely. So I'll take it back. I'll take back my criticism. But yeah, because I think you're right. They love this industry. This is part of what they want the kingdom to be doing. And so, like, they're just going to continue to invest and build shit, So good for them.
I would also say that they're going AAA. I mean, we've seen all of their job postings about AAA games. It's fairly not public, but public. So, I mean, they're only going bigger with what they're doing.
You want me to speculate on Ubisoft again?
I love when you already said it. You thought Scopely was going to try to buy Ubisoft or something.
They should,
like that, right?
They
it's on sale.
Should.
It's like on fire
sale.
Yeah,
dude, this is like bargain, dude.
Yeah, no, I mean, Scopely is what? I think 2,500, 3,000 people, ballooning to, it was Ubisoft, 16, 19, something like that. Yeah, could be fun. That's a big deal. Oof.
That is big.
All right. So speaking of other big companies, did you guys play Rock Band or Guitar Hero? Did you have the 15 guitars in your living room like I did? I had the
kids
drum
are playing
set.
it now.
Oh my God, he's pulling it out. Everybody.
You
Live
still
performance.
have it?
No, you can buy them on fucking Best Buy, dude. They're actually really well made now. And you can boot up the old Rock Band. And my kids just spent hundreds of dollars getting this thing going, but they're actually playing it. So it was totally worth it.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's amazing. That looked so much better than the little dinky one I had.
Oh no, this thing
in 2008.
It doesn't look like a Fisher Price toy.
No,
it's
amazing.
First iteration definitely did.
Eric on Dragon Force.
When I was at EA, we did this, you'd always go to Barcelona or whatever for the European Marketing Summit. And they bought out this bar and they put Rock Band on stage, and each of your teams would dress up and go and perform a song in front of everyone. And it was like the first time in my life I was like, oh my God, this is what a rock star feels like. We're playing Bon Jovi, like Wanted Dead or Alive. Everyone's like, woo! I was like, this. Okay, anyway, let's get to the story. So Activision has announced Guitar Hero Mobile. The last iteration of the franchise was 10 years ago. It just makes me feel old when we say that. I was struck more by the challenge of doing music games on mobile, especially given SpaceApe's BeatStar that we just talked about. Since that didn't make the cut into the Supercell takeover, I have some data coming up about, probably why that is. So the world was a little bit more pissed off about the fact that the art in the social post was apparently AI. So I took a look at it. Oof. Yeah, it's like really, really bad AI. The notes are the wrong colors. There are multiple colors on each of the lanes. It shows 5 lanes, which it was kind of in the advanced mode of Guitar Hero, but on mobile, like very few games actually use that many lanes. The colors were all wrong. Harmonics just must be so, so, so sad. So dear marketers, I love AI. I use it all the time, but I don't use it in public assets. And if you do, geez, make sure that you have 20 people review this thing before it goes out, because I thought this was April Fool's Day. I mean, ugh. And then look, it's like the same pose of the, people on this. It just makes me cry seeing this. Okay. So the bigger issue, music games don't make any kind of money. And I can't imagine this is what Activision is looking for. So I'm super confused. This genre is very admon. I mean, that's why BeatStar actually had to shift its entire strategy to go more admon. That's why the Ammonotes, the Magic Tiles games do really well, because it's all admon. I didn't think this is something Activision really wanted to get their hands dirty with. I don't think about Activision as an admon-driven company like we were just talking about with Triple Dot or the Voodoos or the other folks. So I pulled T1 last 12 months, ranked by revenue. Hatsune Miku is the Japanese game. So these games crush it in Japan. I think everybody knows that. They were number one with a whopping $10 million IAP a year. BeatStar was $6 million a year. Country Star was $1.3 million. This is IAP. Okay, Chris, to your earlier point about ads being more, but not that much more. We can see why these games just kind of struggle on that front. So I love this brand. We just talked about it. Cress, I'm waiting. Do I hear it? Let's hear it.
Yeah, totally mice nuts. I don't know why they're bothering, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't really seem to fit with a free-to-play business model, but maybe they have something creative in mind to build it out. But yeah, I mean, Guitar Hero Rock Band were really one of the last innovative things that's happened in this whole business. So it was so long ago.
With my startup, most recently, we looked at a lot of music. Licensing music games is incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
The complexity around it, though, is that there's no like unifying body,
correct,
like the NFL and the NFL Players Association. So you're doing deals for individual fucking songs, sometimes, or all the different record labels, right? And that gets prohibitively expensive, because that's when the minimum guarantees can eat you alive, right? Because you're doing MGs for everybody. And not to mention licensing fees for everybody and everyone. The negotiations were a pain in the ass. And so part of the reason, besides like general fatigue from the consumer, was that they ran out of fucking music, right? There's only so many songs that really can get you up and moving and plucking a fucking plastic guitar, right? It's like they ran out of music, right? And they actually oversaturated the market, which is a lot of people were saying, is they just tried to release it too fast because they're competing against Rock Band. So anyway, yeah, I mean, if you look at it, like they've done every major song within the first like 2 or 3 years. And so they were just kind of like scrambling to find other stuff. And that kind of ultimately led to the demise, but plus consumers got bored of having
and
plastic shit all over their house.
Plastic shit everywhere. So on music licensing, you have the label and the publisher. So you have to do 2 different deals. And now in today's world, many of the music folks will make you do a blanket deal. So it's kind of like old school cable where you have to pay a lot of money and only use like 10% of the channels that you watch. It's the same thing with music. And then what happened was a number of the artists would not agree to appear in a game that had other artists in it. And so that's why they started to do solo artists.
I actually remember specifically, and I could be wrong, and anybody who was at Harmonix or whatever at the time, when they did the Metallica thing, that was what the end of it, right?
Yep.
They lost so much fucking money on that particular SKU, not because Metallica's a bad band. We love Metallica. But because of all the fees and guarantees and manufacturing, like that supposedly was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, I think that was one of them. And I am a huge Metallica fan. And so I actually had a call with the head of the Guitar Hero franchise because I was trying to learn about music for the game I was working on. And the nail in the coffin was this topic. Just music licensing made it so incredibly, incredibly difficult. Phil, what else did you have on this?
Well, first of all, I'm just confused that you would give this to Activision rather than King. I don't know how like Crash Bandicoot comes out first to like send over to King and not send over this. Feels like a more obvious fit. We also had Tap Tap Revenge 20 years ago, so I don't understand why we're reinventing this. There's also have been like other Guitar Hero games. So I want to see the corporate strategy slide that argues for this, if one exists, on how you like position this. I think there's a separate very interesting story about why Guitar Hero and Rock Band died. Because not only did they die, they died basically overnight between 2008 and 2009. There was a huge drop in revenue. And this fall from grace is fucking insane, right? Because in 2008, the music genre had become the second most popular genre in the United States behind action, and half of the players were female. Incredible, right? And at its height in 2008, music games were about 18% of the video game market. So music games were absolutely killing it. I think we all remember Rock Band and Guitar Hero. I mean, even if you go back and like watch The Office, you remember there's a party at Jim's house, they're playing Rock Band. It was a part of pop culture, right? It was a part of mainstream. And the question is like, why did it die? And I think part of the explanation that Eric gave, like, hey, you got all this plastic shit around your house. What a waste of space. This isn't going to last long. I would agree that's part of it. But I think people forget that 2008 is also when you have the App Store and you have free-to-play come out. And especially with such a strong female share, I would argue that free-to-play killed music games. I don't actually think it was any of the plastic shit. I would argue more free-to-play.
I know, I agree.
Come on, get out of here.
Are you kidding? People, I totally disagree with that. People have plastic shit all over their house. They collect figurines. They collect old consoles. They collect everything.
It's fatigue.
Not to mention, 2008 was the Great Recession, too. Like, who's going to go out and buy this bullshit plastic guitars when the whole fucking world is collapsing?
Actually, it's
retail.
retail.
They're going to play free-to-play games, right?
So this also coincided with retail. Because of the recession, retail was getting rid of the shelf space in the video game aisle because that stuff took up so much space. So retailers are basically the ones that killed this and said, we don't have room for all of your shit anymore.
And well, they have room for DJ Hero, much smaller.
I don't know. You only can play the same song so many times. And then at the cost of having to buy all the DLC packs or all the individual songs starts to feel old really quick. So I'm thinking of Beat Saber. Played a lot of Beat Saber, really liked it. I know it's VR and not this.
It's VR, different.
It's slightly different.
That's also premium.
It's also premium. But if every time I wanted to play something new, I had to buy a full new pack.
Yeah. All right, guys, we have to wrap it here. Thanks, everyone, and see you next week.
All right. Bye, guys.
You did it. You made it to the end of the episode. As a fan of the show, it would help us out if you'd subscribe and leave us a review on the podcast service of your choice. Those stars and likes, while a small action on your part, mean a lot to us and help to grow the show. More importantly, are you a member of the Deconstructor of Fun Slack group? If you have 5 years or more of games industry experience, go to deconstructorofun.com/Slack and apply to join. Join the games industry best professional community filled with peers always willing to lend a hand, or subscribe to our newsletter to get all the latest insights from the Deconstructor of Fun content creators. Thanks for listening.